All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We have got a great episode ahead of you for today. We are going to talk about hiring designers. But first, I got to ask Mike about his trip to Las Vegas because Mike was in Las Vegas last week. I was supposed to go, but ended up not being able to go due to a medical issue. But it is what it is. And I'd like to hear about your findings in Vegas because I know you're there all the time.
Oh, well, I never go to Vegas except for the pool show. That's not my town, really. But I was there for 6 days, which is the longest I've ever been in Vegas because we took some advanced design class, which was 2 solid days, 8 hours a day, which was a really great group of people all trying to do some cool stuff. Then the show started, and what the show is basically several football fields of booths, all showing all kinds of different things, everything from hot tubs to fiberglass swimming pools to lazy river equipment to one of the cool things I found was a surfing apparatus that you could put in your pool, which would create a wave that you could actually surf or boogie board on, which that was pretty cool.
Right. This is the International Pool and Spa Show that's done annually.
Correct.
And has things from all over the world, manufacturers, suppliers, vendors, everything. So anybody that's in the pool industry hopefully would get to the show once in a while, if not every single year.
Oh, it's just a tremendous resource that you're going to look at everything from new tiles that may be available to deck materials to, I'm looking around for little details like new deck drains that I could use that might be more visibly pleasing that I could, but still functional, to, everything from, saunas and hot tubs. And the new thing this year was the cold plunge.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you saw this year that maybe you saw last year in smaller quantities, but now are all the rage.
Yeah. So last year I was looking for cold plunges because I had 2 clients that were looking at installing cold plunges last year. And I found 3 on the whole floor. And they were basically in hot tub manufacturers' booths that had basically hybridized it so they could do some cold situations. This year, there were probably 40 different cold plunges I found.
So we're seeing cold plunges go more mainstream now.
Yes. So
they're great for people.
It's a very strong thing with wellness.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of advantages for that particular piece of equipment. And there's a lot of people that manufacture a lot of different things, everything from real simple ones to pretty exotic stuff. So anyway, it was, again, you're just looking and turning over rocks in there, trying to find resources that may address needs that you have now or needs that you don't even know that you have, that a client may come to you in 2 years and be like, have you ever seen anything like this? And you're like, hey, I've seen something like that.
As a matter of fact,
let me go pull this out of my file and see what I've got for you.
And then, so for our consumer listeners out there, this International Pool and Spa Show is just for the industry. So you've got to be in the industry to go. And so I think that since this episode is about designers, that this is one of the resources we have in the industry to go seek out not only new products and new vendors and new ideas, but also education.
Very much.
And so tell us a little bit about what you did at the show this year.
So, well, there's a couple of different things. So I taught a class. So I was teaching a class the second day. And then I also do a presentation, which is called the $1 Million Pool Design Challenge, which basically it's a bunch of designers. They all have the same site. They have the same client, and they all get to come up with a solution to see what they can create. And the opportunity for them to do a large scale project before they have a large scale client, because there's a lot of things that they're not aware of that they may be asked to do. And so they can now see, hey, here's what I created, but then I can also see what other people in the industry have created and learn from that. That's how, when we studied landscape architecture, that's how it worked. You got to see what the seniors and juniors did. Their projects were pinned up on the wall, and you got to see all the different graphic presentations and how people did things. And so same exact thing here. We picked 5 finalists. The 5 finalists get to go to the show. And then in the class decides on the winner. And the winner got $10,000
Wow.
for a design.
You guys are on what, the 3rd or 4th year?
This would be year 5.
Year 5.
So
yeah, I've been following along the last 5 years. It's pretty awesome.
So that was a lot of fun. And then there's classes on everything from wellness to acrylic windows to here's how you do this type of structural situation. Here's what you do in bad soils. So there's everything from design classes to engineering classes to construction classes. And, the first day that I was on the floor, Monday, I was in classes for over 8 hours. I only had a 30-minute gap during the whole time period to walk on the floor. And so, Tuesday was a little bit better, and Wednesday was the best day that I had because a lot of people had left. And so it was easy to go around and talk to people. But you're gathering resources. So that's the fun adventure of it. I mean, the architects have the same type of thing. Interior designers have the same type of thing. This is just all specialized for the pool industry and outdoor living. Actually, NADRA, which is the National Deck Association, does it in conjunction with the Pool Association. So you have all these people that create wood decks and structures and that type of thing there as well.
So outdoor living stuff.
Outdoor living stuff.
Well, this is a great segue into this episode because we're going to talk today about whether or not you should hire a designer. And if you are going to hire a designer, how do you decide? How do you choose? How do you pick one? What are some of the things that you would want to take into consideration before hiring one? And, what makes a good designer versus one that maybe isn't so good? Because, our intent is really nothing but positivity. But at the same time, we want to hook up our, consumers with a designer that's equipped to be able to handle your specific design. And so there's going to be different levels of designers. And there's going to be times probably, Mike, when, a salesperson is all you need. They're just going to give you a basic pool and 3 feet of deck around it. Or maybe you want a basic pool, but you really want to deal with somebody that's maybe been around, that's gone through educational programs, that has a better idea so that you'll be more informed and more educated when you go through and decide to make this pretty good size investment, correct?
It's a big investment. So everybody says it's the second largest one unless you've got some really exotic car.
Very exotic. I'm a car guy. Very exotic.
Yeah. So McLaren. So the Formula One race was immediately after the pool show. So we all left town very quickly as they descended upon Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think somebody or some industry is descending on Las Vegas probably just about every day.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Place to go for there. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about your perspective as far as hiring a designer, how you feel about it, what you think maybe helps a consumer. I mean, if you're looking for a designer, what are some of the things you would suggest that they do? What are some of the questions that they would ask? What kind of homework can a homeowner do, to ensure that they're getting matched up with the right person?
Well, I think,
and really, what are we talking about when we're matching up?
Well, we're matchmakers. You said that earlier.
Yeah.
The whole process. So
right.
the industry has changed tremendously over the last 15 years. And the demands for who's going to create what you put in your backyard have changed drastically over the last 15 years. I mean, when I started in the pool industry, we were asked to design swimming pools. And basically that was it. I mean, we didn't do, nobody built outdoor kitchens or fire pits or, cabanas or lazy rivers or none of those things. It was just basic swimming pool. And so, you went to your pool contractor because most people could satisfy what you're wanting to put into your backyard. There wasn't a whole lot of tremendous challenging things or creativity that went into it. It was basically, the swimming pool that, and you had some design maybe involved, but it wasn't critical because most people had an idea of what they wanted in the first place. Now, since the invention of Pinterest and Instagram and the internet, which all have occurred since I got into the pool industry.
Yes, they have.
Okay. The perspective on what people are wanting to do has changed drastically. And corresponding, the pool industry's educational process has changed somewhat along that same timeline. So I don't know which one influenced the other, or if they kind of went simultaneously at the same time, but that has changed. And so there's more things available for you today, but you still may want just a swimming pool. Okay. And if you want just a swimming pool to reach, so what most people do when they start this process is all they think about is calling the contractor. And the contractor is going to send somebody out to help me develop this project. The challenge is it depends on who's doing that. If you have a bunch of people that have an average skill set, that's basically what they're going to be able to produce for you. And if that's what you're looking for, nothing crazy, then that probably will fall in line. The biggest thing I would say that would be helpful in that process is you still want to do what's best for you. And so it helps is if you get somebody that comes out and asks a lot of questions.
Sure.
So if the person that comes out to attend to you comes out and takes your order, what I call an order taker, what would you like, Mr. and Mrs. Jones? And you say, well, I want a pool and a spa and a diving board and maybe a water feature. And I don't know, what else? And they're like taking those notes. And they're like, okay, I'll get you back a design. Well, that's an order taker.
Right.
They're going to give you exactly what you asked for, nothing more, nothing less. The problem is, basically most people have never built a pool before. All they're aware of is what their friends have done, which their friends went through the same process. So they don't know what they're getting with their pool. So it's kind of disappointing for a lot of people later on after they finish a project. They're like, wait, what's that over there? I didn't even know that existed because nobody gave me that information. So if you have someone that comes out and asks questions and tries to understand what you're looking for and maybe presents you with some different options, then that person can help you build a nice basic swimming pool. And then you're not going to be disappointed later on because you weren't informed about something because they gave you all the options. So I think the first thing that you're looking for is someone that's going to ask you a lot of questions about your project.
Right.
And
so what we're talking about when hiring a designer is you're paying somebody to do a set of plans for you or a design, conceptual plans, at least provide you with information, maybe, a sheet that's got specifications on it, materials, all of this stuff so that you've got a good composite or mosaic, if you will, for getting, an estimate if your intention is to, bid it out, I guess, with multiple companies, correct? Okay.
So when most people have a designer come out, they're going to create a design. Mm-hmm. The first thing is who owns the design? Do you, the homeowner, own it or does the designer own it?
Right.
So if you didn't pay anything for it, it's not your property. Mm-hmm. You can't take it, in my opinion, ethically, take that design and give it to somebody else for them to do a bid on it.
We know this happens all the time, though.
We do know it happens, but what the consumer, a lot of times, the next guy comes along and he says, hey, do you got a copy of a design? Mm-hmm. Okay, so as that guy hasn't put any time and effort into it, and there used to be companies I know that used to say, hey, call Claffey Pools. They do good design work. Mm-hmm. Because they weren't going to do the design work. They wanted to take my design and then go bid it and then try to undercut me what we're doing, because what it didn't come down to is the general drawing or the shape, because I can take the same drawing and shape and have $200,000 difference in cost.
Sure.
Okay. What it boils down to, and what a lot of people don't understand, is it's the specifications that make the project. Mm-hmm. Okay. What are we specifying for all the hundreds of choices that are made throughout the project? I got a set of plans today. Okay. Met with a client. He's like, well, I'm going to get 3 bids. I said, well, that's your opportunity. These plans are yours. You paid for them.
Sure.
Okay. From a landscape architect, but there is not a single specification on this. Doesn't talk about tile, doesn't talk about finishes, talks about no equipment, doesn't talk about any of the things structurally that are needed on this pool. Nothing.
Was there a scale on it? You would have to do a takeoff?
Okay, there was a scale.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was a conceptual plan. Okay, which I think is our word of the day.
Yes, we'll come back to that.
Okay, so it is a conceptual plan that was to scale, but that doesn't get you something that's biddable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so something that you're going to, and quite honestly, you don't understand even what you're getting with just a conceptual plan and a 3D rendering. You still don't understand what you're getting until you get a set of specifications.
Correct.
Okay, so what do you own as a homeowner? Well, if you haven't paid who created this document fee, it's not yours.
Right.
Okay. Now, once you pay that person a fee for it, okay, you've paid for the design work, you've paid for his time. Now you own the drawing, and then you could take the drawing and shop that drawing. So, in my opinion, the best use of a consumer's time is to find someone that has the skills to create what you want. Pay that person to create that. Pay them for the set of specifications. Now, quite honestly, if he's really good at, or she's really good at what they do, they may be the person that you want to work with throughout the whole process.
All the way through.
Because they have knowledge, they understand it, they have the capability, they actually brought all these things to the table. And so then there's some accountability from the designer all the way through the construction. And I'm going to say, to step back a second, we polled a reference group for this episode. So we have a reference group.
Yep.
So we have different perspectives.
Yes.
Okay.
This is all about perspective.
Just not me and Kevin talking here. But the number one thing that all of them said is when you have a designer, you want someone that's going to deal with you all the way through the process.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so what does that mean for you? That means they understand the construction process. They're not going to sell you something and be like, okay, see you later. Good luck with everything. I'll come by afterwards and take a picture of your pool, and bring you a welcome to swimming pool basket, or something like that. So, someone that's involved throughout the whole process means they walk on your job site after the hole's dug. So they actually understand how things are built to some extent because they're out there. They're usually curious weirdos like me
and me
that show up and take pictures. So my shoes are muddy most of the time, unless it was this summer and it never rained. But anyway, they like to see how things are built. So that person is going to be much better for you than a designer that sells something and then is done.
Let me just clarify something here to our listeners.
Yes.
Because this episode is a lot about whether or not you should hire a designer. And Mike and I want to at least give you an idea of what a designer looks like to both him and I. Now, him and I have both been in the industry for 30 years. We both have gone down the educational track. Mike substantially more than I have, but I have a ton that I've done in the past. But when it's all said and done, we're trying to help you understand the difference between a designer and a salesperson. And there needs to be salespeople. And Mike and I were once new to the industry. So we want to recognize the newer people that are in the industry and certainly not step on anybody's toes. But if you're spending a substantial amount of money, are you going to want to pick a designer that's accustomed to doing those kinds of jobs? Or are you going to pick somebody that maybe this is their learning curve, this job?
Right.
And that's really it, because there's great salespeople out there and there's great designers out there. But you as a consumer getting your first pool or even your fifth pool, unless you have a fundamental understanding of what you're going to get, you're kind of shooting in the dark. Because to your point, and we've talked about this before in other episodes, you call 5, 6, 7, 8 different companies, you get 5, 6, 8 different designs, 8 different sets of specifications in a language you have never seen before, or maybe have very limited access to. How do you take all that information and make a decision? We're trying to make this decision easier for you, but at the same time, there's just a process to going through. And I believe, like you, I mean, if you're gonna do this and you want to really do it right, hire a designer, pay somebody to do your plans.
So how do you find that person?
That's the $1 million question. And to the point, every industry is going to have, new people come into it.
Right.
Every industry is going to be around for a certain amount of time. Every industry is going to go through its protocols of growth and everything else. Our industry in 30 years has been turned upside down. In the last 15, it's, even more so. Yeah. So we have an industry that now is not just doing pools. We have an industry that's doing pools, outdoor structures, outdoor kitchens, outdoor entertainment areas, complete landscapes, hardscapes. I mean, you name it. There's a ton going into these backyards, and that's where we're talking.
Well, if that's your backyard.
True.
So, and I think what you were stating earlier is if it's a simple type situation, if you have a salesperson that asks you lots of questions, I think you can get where you need to be. Okay. But then the question is when you start getting into more complex things, the skill level that's required to do those gets more and more challenging. And the challenge is also there's fewer and fewer people that know how to do those things. Mm-hmm. So there's certain things that you could look at, which I just think we need to run by you to think about. Are these good resources to consider? So like, first of all, years of experience. What do you think about, I've been in this industry 15 years, therefore I'm pretty good at what I do?
Well, I think that might be the case, but it also might not be the case because I've known people that have been in the industry for a long time and they still haven't really learned a whole lot because they're just in it for a job, and that's fine. That's how they're wired. But I live and breathe and think about this stuff 24/7. This is my life. And as pathetic as that might sound, I have loved the industry the entire time. This is fun.
So you're trying to tell me that there's some people that we've done it for the last 15 years and it worked, so we don't need to change anything?
Well, I know that's exactly the fact.
Yeah, so we still use the big pipe, the 1.5 inches?
Yeah, right.
So from a hydraulic standpoint, that's a bad joke. A very bad joke. But if you don't understand the industry, you may not understand what I was trying to say. But there's some people that, especially, that they grew up, their parents were in the industry, they've been in the industry, and they've been doing the same thing for the past 30 years.
And they might do a really good job, but how does a consumer know or understand that?
Well, so it could be they've dealt with very basic. If they've done it for 30 years, they weren't doing crazy stuff 30 years ago.
True.
So if they're still doing as basic could be, that's fine, but don't try to put that basic plumbing into a perimeter overflow pool.
Right.
You're going to have a train wreck. Okay. So so experience could be beneficial, but not necessarily.
No, it's definitely beneficial.
Okay.
Because if you've been around that long, you've seen a few things.
Okay. So what if we talked about awards? So I'm an award-winning pool designer.
Yeah.
Okay. So does that make me qualified to do what?
I think it's a nice little check mark on a checklist that you've won some awards.
So would it have more weight to have won one award or 10 or 15?
Well, I think the more, the better. I mean, there's some companies, though, that are much better at putting stuff in for awards than other companies. There's some companies that see a lot of value in it. Specifically, the one that we work for sees a ton of value in it. But I know companies that don't see any value in it. They could care less.
Right. So
and that's okay.
But they can still do a great product. So just saying you're an award-winning company doesn't necessarily say that's bad or good, because there are different types of awards. I mean, and to me, some of them have different weight. So if you were to ask somebody about an award and they said they won a Masters of Design, from a designer standpoint, that's a pretty high level award, because what that award is given to is the people that designed the project, not the person that built the project.
Right.
Okay. And you have to understand those are two different things. So there's also what I call regional awards, like Florida has an award situation. The Northeast has an awards ceremony. The Southwest has one. So there's different regions in the country that have awards. Like here in Texas, there's 8 states in our region. So we have regional awards in February at the Southwest Pool and Spa Show. So there's also trade shows. Oh, I mean, not trade shows, but trade groups. You have,
Aircraft.
Aircraft has a big one.
Master
Pool Guild has another one. So, that's a buying group. But still, that's a decent award if you've won an award through that type situation. So you have the International Pool and Spa Show, PHTA's awards, awards of excellence. So that's a pretty high level because you're competing on a national plane. There's also the Pebble Tech has an awards situation that they have. They print a book every year.
Yes, they do, and it's a beautiful book.
Yeah, so it's a great resource.
Lots of stuff in it
to look at. So there's a lot of different awards situations, but that could give you an idea, especially if someone's done has a lot of different awards that could say something for their skill level.
I totally believe that.
So
even companies, companies that have won awards, how they display them, you can tell whether or not, it's important to them.
Right.
I think everybody should, at least visit the contractor's place of business. That's another thing to take into consideration. Do I think that there's some builders that maybe work out of their garage that do a good job? Of course there's some out there, but this is part of the whole issue is how do you as a consumer who really knows nothing about this get the information that you need to make a decision?
How do you find somebody?
So
another thing you could look at is there's people that you go into LinkedIn or something like that put down the places they've been published in.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether it's trade journals or, like there's Luxury Pools, which is a really nice
yes, it is
magazine, which is a resource. So that could be one place you could start looking. They break different companies down by regions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, or different states. So you can find people that work in a particular state, but there's people that, like if you take Texas, I don't work anywhere in Texas. I just work in Dallas, Fort Worth.
DFW.
So some people as designers will travel some distances. Some people travel to different countries.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on, so we have awards, we have publishing. So I think the best thing, so there's social media.
There's education.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to do that one after.
Okay.
So social media is where probably a lot of people go today.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay. And so they're going to find people that post things. Okay.
And typically what you're going to see posting are amazing, beautiful, completely perfect projects.
Well, of course. Well, actually, I do show the ugly stuff too.
I like showing the ugly stuff too. And when I say ugly stuff, what's important for me, and it always has been important to me, is I want people to understand the construction process because it's not a lot of fun.
Right.
Nobody has fun doing this because, we live in an Amazon world, and people can order stuff and it's there the next day, and pools take some time to build. Definitely. And I have always enjoyed being out in the field. And so to your point earlier about having a designer that's going to be out in the field, I've been on jobs right now that I'm working on that the pools aren't going to be started for months. And I've been to the job site 6 and 7 times.
Right.
Just checking on the status of the house and just taking another look at things, seeing if there's something I missed or something that we could do better or different, but keeping an eye on these things from start to finish. I get a lot out of that.
Social media. There's people that you're going to find on there that are designers, and that's probably the platform that designers have a voice on.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, just the contractor's voice. So when you look at social media, something also to understand is when you consider a designer is there's basically 2 camps of designers to look at. So there's one that designs a specific style. This is what they're comfortable with. You look at their portfolio of work, they're on social media, and you'll see consistency and concept and colors and features and that type of thing. And they're all a little bit different, and they all work with the homes and everything a little bit differently, but they definitely have a style that they work on.
Mm-hmm.
And you have other designers that are real diverse. And some of the people that I polled said it was really important to work with a designer that has diverse skills. But other people said it's the opposite. You want somebody that's worked in a particular niche and that's their expertise. So not right or wrong, just different.
No, true.
Okay. So some designers find enjoyment out of designing different styles for different settings and for different architecture and for different wants and needs to create lots of different things. So that's what they enjoy. Me as a designer, that's the camp I fall into.
Mm-hmm.
I like doing different things.
So do I.
I claim that, I've never designed the same pool twice in 30 years. So that's the fun of my job, is they're all different. So I think you kind of fall in that same camp. But again, everybody's a little bit different. And we're going to be interviewing some designers here in the future. That
we've got some great people coming on.
And we've got both types.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got some that are one way and some that are the other way. So again, it's all different. So as you look at social media, that is certainly something you could consider. Although the one thing that I caution with social media is there's people on there that they'll claim they'll design you a pool and they'll never walk on your property. And that creates some challenges in the capabilities, I think, to be fully creative.
Completely, 100%.
So, again, one of the reasons, there's two reasons I work exclusively in DFW. One, I go to every site that I design. Two, I go to every site that's being constructed. And for me to do that and travel, I can't do that.
I feel the same way.
And I like my bed much better than hotel beds.
Right.
Well,
and there's plenty of work here.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Correct. And so nothing wrong with traveling and doing it, but to design something and not understand all the things that surround a piece of property, not just on the property, but everything that surrounds the property and the environment that it's setting in, and just to see and feel the space, to me, I can't design a project that I haven't been to.
We've talked about this before, and I feel the same way. And I honestly just do not think that somebody that has not been on your site, that is not intimately aware of everything on your site, that you're going to have really good luck in construction. Yeah. It's just, you're just going to have stuff that's going to come up. And that's the point here again, is we stay engaged in the project from start to finish. And so when Mike and I, develop a plan for somebody, it's important for us to ensure that the collective plan, which is the stuff that came out of your head that went into ours, that we put down on paper, is coming to fruition and to completion the way that we all thought it would. And you can't do that from 1,000 miles away or 1,500 miles away. I don't care how many cameras you have on the site. It just doesn't matter. There's something very different about being there and not being there.
So the challenge with social media is there's a lot of designers that are on there that are trying to get you to do design work, but they don't do a site visit. So that is something to be a little hesitant on. So
you just jogged my memory, because I was on social media the other day, and there's a group of designers on there, and that's all they do is just design pools. And some of these people have never been in the field. They have not even been out on a job site. They're doing design work, and that's what they are. And for those that are doing that, that's great. But at the end of the day, what Mike and I are talking about is a designer that not only can design the pool, but also knows how it gets built and could build it. Both you and I have spent years in the field managing projects and jobs.
So is that an important feature to consider with the person that you're working with, that they have construction experience?
I think it's a consideration. If you're just looking for a pretty plan and, that's what you want, that's one thing. And that's why I think it's important to understand the different levels here and what we're talking about. Here's another thing completely too that I was thinking about a minute ago. I mean, when you pay somebody to do something, now you have a captive person that's working on your behalf for your design, for your best interests. It's a little bit different than, having 6 or 8 people coming out, and they're also working 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 other jobs. It does get convoluted. And that's just the way the industry was kind of built on. It was built on commissioned salespeople working at a construction company, designing pools, selling them, and then moving on to the next sales job. But as we've been talking about, the jobs have gotten so complex and so huge now that it takes a whole lot more to even get into them.
So you're telling me that someone that gets paid and only does 5 projects a month is going to give you a better level of service than someone that's not getting paid and designs 25 projects in a month?
Yes, I'm saying that 100%.
You really think that, he might give you better service?
Yes.
Or she?
Yes.
So,
and it's not necessary. Maybe it's not necessarily better. Maybe it's just more focused attention.
Thorough.
And thorough.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, gobs of money here. I mean, it's at least tens of thousands of dollars, but you and I have done jobs that are hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not even $1 million. So there's a whole lot more going on.
So what you're saying is, as an investment, it makes sense to get someone and pay them to develop this because you would get the best situation. So what would probably happen is the word change order will probably not show up as much.
Well, probably not, for sure.
So I would say that a good designer, regardless of what you pay, will probably save you that amount in time and change orders and trying to figure things out later on if they've been a very thorough process.
I do not doubt at all that they're going to save money by paying a designer to design their project.
Well, the other thing to bring into mind here, how much time do you save?
If you hire somebody?
Yes.
You would save a substantial amount of time if you hired, a competent person that you believe could do the job and that they were able to deliver. You're going to save a huge amount of time. So what's your time worth?
So instead of sitting down with 6 different contractors that are all going to shoot different ideas at you, and quite honestly, you're not sure which one's telling you the truth. And in all honesty, they may all be telling you the truth because that's what they were taught by their sales manager.
Sure. Absolutely. That's a very fair statement.
And so, the one thing that I have an advantage from experience and being in the pool industry a long time, I can speak very candidly about certain things that there's not an alternative here. You need to do this. That's the only thing you should do. And then there's other things of, well, you can pick A, B, or C. It really doesn't matter. It's just your personal preference, and here's the pros and cons of it. So that's one thing I can bring just because how long I've been doing this. Okay. Versus, when I first started, yes, I had a sales manager that said, this is the only way to do it. And until I got some education, which you mentioned a minute ago, which I haven't answered your question yet on, until you get education, that's hard to make informed decisions. So, but once you have someone that has those skill sets, they can save you a lot of time as a consumer.
And likely money, because I just firmly believe that money and time have some value to it. So, the things that you need to know and understand, or at least have, and I've said this before too, and this is the way I feel about everything. I have bought and stuff before and then found out later that there was something else I could have bought with it or, as part of it, that if somebody had told me I would have. And that, again, has always been my premise, is to make sure that I've laid everything out so that when people make a decision, they can make a decision. So if there is a problem, there's rarely ever been one. It's like, well, you didn't tell me about this. No, we talked about this because I'm going to show you this checklist. And these are all the things that we talked about and discussed. And you need to spend some time, going through it with your designer.
Right. I have a checklist as well, so I don't forget all those things because there's a lot of things to consider. lot of options. So,
All right. So let's go ahead and traverse right into the question of the day. And I think it's a good segue. Actually, we're going to do the word of the day, which is conceptual. So, Mike, explain to our listeners the difference between, say, a conceptual plan and a set of construction plans.
It's a good question. And I think this is something that a lot of people understand. So what I do is I design a conceptual plan. And a conceptual plan is to scale. So typically I'm working in 1/8 inch scale of your backyard environment. My conceptual plan is exact in its details. It's not a sketch. It is a hard defined, dimensioned drawing. So most of the people do this in CAD, computer aided design. I happen to use a pencil and draw everything. And yes, I know I am a dinosaur in that
No, you're
aspect.
just very good at it.
Well, I've been doing it a long time. But then what happens is I turn that drawing over to Megan, and Megan puts it in CAD because that's how we do all of our working drawings, where we're going in the future. But conceptual plan is just that. It is showing everything. It is to scale. I've considered everything from elevations to product to how all the pieces are going to go together. And then what accompanies my conceptual drawing and all my projects is a 3-dimensional model. So the 3-dimensional model then can help people see what's taking place. But along with that, in my process, the third thing that I think is important is also a set of specifications that specify everything that's going to take place on this job. Because if you hand me just a conceptual plan,
Kind of worthless.
it's kind of worthless. So, I mean, you can have countless different solutions. And if people pay for a conceptual plan and they don't get a 3D model and they don't get a set of specifications, it's not biddable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're basically just bidding a shape. Okay. Now we've all agreed on the shape of it, what it's made of, how it's made, what color it is, what the materials are. We don't know any of those things. Okay. We just agreed on a shape. Okay. Which that's a starting point, but it's a very low starting point. So a conceptual plan, though, I can communicate to you what we're trying to achieve with the 3-dimensional model accompanied by specifications. What
And
works?
a site visit, because you have visited the site, you've
Oh.
taken pictures, you've done measurements.
Oh.
So your conceptual plans are going to be relatively close to what you're doing, as mine are.
Right.
And then the construction plans would be put together by the contractor,
The contractor usually puts together the construction plan.
because each one has a different way of doing things.
But what he's going to do is now provide, or what my feelings should be provided, and a good set of working drawings is there should be cross sections. You basically cut through the middle of something like a cake.
To show how it's built.
I cut through the middle of the cake, and now I can see all the layers and all the thicknesses and how all the pieces go in together in the middle of that cake.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's what you're going to cut through every single different spot that it's different on that project. So it's very clear how all the pieces go together. So once that's done, a lot of times what accompanies that are side views from all 4 sides of structures. It shows the roof pitch. It's showing all the details of the electrical. It's showing all the details of the plumbing. It's showing all the details of how all the components that are going into this are done. That's a set of working drawings. Now, a set of working drawings, a good set of working drawings is going to be 10, 12, 15 pages
Sure.
of drawings to show all this. There's going to be a layout drawing showing you how it's dimensioned so you can actually go out in the field and lay this out on the ground so it's accurate. You're going to have maybe a gunite drawing showing how the gunite shell is going to be shot. There's going to be an in-floor cleaning system drawing in that set of drawings showing where all the heads for the in-floor are and how that's dimensioned out. So everything is very precisely laid out, so there's no questions on your drop beam, on if it's a tile veneer or if it's a paver veneer or if it's a stone veneer, because all three of those different veneers require a different cap size, okay, which should be drawn accurately on the plans. So the selections of materials even go into how all these pieces fit together. That is now, in a lot of places, sent to an engineer, and the engineer does his work on it. Once it's working drawings and engineered drawings now go to the homeowners association as well as the city to get permits. Some homeowners associations will approve conceptual plans with a 3D model.
So what I'm hearing from you, and I would agree, is that a good set of conceptual plans would have enough information on it that you could actually perform a takeoff or do a bid or estimate on it.
Yes, but not build from.
Right.
So
there's a difference.
There's a difference.
Yep.
So that's the difference between those two things.
I think the big thing, going back to the conceptual again, is that what happens for you as a homeowner is now you've leveled the playing field. You now have a set of plans, a conceptual set of plans from a designer, either from Mike, myself, or somebody else, that you could bid or get other estimates from, because now everybody's on the same page. And this is what becomes confusing for consumers, is when you are dealing with multiple salespeople or designers or contractors, every last thing that you're getting is different. How do you decipher that? We're trying to make that easier for you, and we want to save you money. So anyway, get back to your question, Mike.
Okay, so the question of the day comes from Shane in St. George, Utah.
Oh, that's a beautiful city. Have you ever been there?
I have not been there.
Oh, it's cool.
So Shane is a home builder.
Okay.
And Shane just built his own personal pool, and he's decided that it would really benefit his clients that if he got involved in pool building as well as home building.
Heard this before.
And he's understands that it is a totally different process. And so he's done some research, and he's found that there's two different educational platforms in the pool industry, Watershapes University and the Genesis Group. And so he asked which one's best.
Gotcha.
So this is a question that's come up a lot recently that I get asked. I think you've been asked as well. Especially in the last 5 years, because 5 years prior to that, there was only one group. Now there's two groups, training groups. So do you want me to go into my opinions, or do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I view education as kind of a salad bar. Okay. And with the salad bar, when I go to the salad bar, I don't eat everything. I basically pick the things that I would like to eat, and I take from them. So education, there's two different ways that I would look at this. So some people are like, I want to get certified, and I want to get certified in the quickest way possible. And so I am going to choose one school or the other to go get my certification from. This is like, I would say, when you go to college, you don't go to 3 different colleges, you go to one. And that gets you there the quickest. If you go to one and then transfer to another and then go to a third, that takes longer to get through the process.
Sure.
However, you could also say, this is what I feel is important to me, and this is what I want to learn. And so I would like to learn different viewpoints, perspectives from this process. So I'm going to go take this school's design class, and then I'm going to go take the other school's design class, because I'm going to get different information from 2 different instructors, and that's going to make me more well-rounded.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm not pursuing how fast I get through the program and get my master's or my Watershape University certification. So I'm going to choose to go back and forth. And there may be instructors that are like, hey, I like this one a little bit better than this one over here. And so I'm going to take that one first, and then I'll take the other. And so it's about getting knowledge, not necessarily getting a certification. So when I went through this process, the reason it took me a long time is because when I took the first class in 99, we said, well, when's the second one? And they're like, we don't know.
Right.
We haven't even got that far for there to be a second class. And there wasn't a second class for several years. And then even when the second one came out, there wasn't a third one for a while. So, and now there's.
Did you go to the one in Pennsylvania with Tischerman?
No, that was.
You didn't go with that one.
I didn't go to that one.
I think that's where I met Kirk Bianchi.
Okay.
And I remember him just like smoking the rest of the class in his design work because he's really good at doing perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
He's insanely talented.
So that required me, I was a poor designer in Northern California, and I was lucky because the first class was in Morro Bay.
I was there.
So it was right down the road from me.
That's where I met you.
I could drive there. So it was very short versus going all the way to Pennsylvania and taking another class. So I skipped. They only had that class once.
Right.
They didn't teach it a second time because then they started the construction classes. And I went all the way to Miami to take my first construction class. So anyway.
Well, I think both of us flew all over the country to all kinds of classes and shows and everything else.
Yeah, because it wasn't so this last week, the International Pool Show, both of these organizations were there. Both of them were teaching classes. So you could choose. And when I was there, I took 4 of one and 6 of the other. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because quite honestly, I don't care.
Right.
I'm about getting information. The other thing is I have the high certifications through both of them.
Yes, you do.
Okay. So the big thing is once you get certified, and I think this is important too, is you have to do continuing education. So if someone gets the very first certification, it's just one class. I think it's like a 24-hour class that you have to take through both of those organizations. Well, if you got that certification 6 years ago and you never got anything else after that, you're not really pursuing education very much.
Right.
Okay. So to answer Shane's question, which one do I think is the best? I don't care.
I agree.
I view they both have great instructors. They both offer information. Quite honestly, I think you're best suited to do them both.
I agree.
Because it makes you more well-rounded in what you want to do. So if you're all about construction and managing construction projects and doing construction, then you need to take the construction classes from both of them. If you're all about design, take the design classes from both of them. It doesn't necessarily make you – now, quite honestly, if you're doing crazy design work, it sure helps to understand how to do crazy construction work.
Right.
Because you may be pushing the contractor that you're working with beyond the capabilities of what he has.
That's a big thing right there.
And so you need to be able to bring to the table the knowledge that, okay, I'm going to do this crazy. The first time we did a lazy river. Okay. So, I had never done a lazy river before. Now, the way that it happened is I went to a pool show and I saw a guy in a booth showing a video of somebody kayaking in a swimming pool.
River flow.
It was the river flow booth. And so I was like, that's pretty cool. I was like, now I'm not thinking about kayaking in a pool. And I talked to him a little bit about how would you use this and why would you use this and what's the pros and cons and the cost. And he explained it all to me and I took it all down. Now, was I building a lazy river then? No.
But you remembered.
It was probably 5 years later. Somebody came to me and said, want to do a lazy river. Now, did I call that guy and just use his product? No. Okay. The second thing came into play is when you get education, the most important thing you get out of it is association.
Yes.
Okay. Association gives you resources of, hey, I was sitting at dinner and this guy was talking about he'd built a lazy river in the Caribbean. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool in somebody's personal home. So I was like, wow. So I called that guy up and I said, hey, Brian, who did you use for your pump system? And he said, well, I used Riverflow. And I said, okay, that's the dude with the kayak video. So that's who I had in mind as well. And I said, when you turned it on, it worked. And he said, yes. So we go out and built the very first lazy river. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars in it. And when we flipped the switch, did we worry that it wasn't going to work? No, because I had already talked to people that it worked with.
Right.
Okay. So I had the knowledge of the construction side as well as the design side. So when we flipped that switch, now there's some things that happened because they told me, hey, you're probably going to have to upgrade the electrical service to the house. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, this thing draws 50 amps. And you got 2 of them. That's 100 amps. Oh, we haven't even started with the rest of the pool.
Right.
Okay. So what was interesting is they didn't just have to upgrade the electrical service to the house. He was at the end of the block. The transformer wasn't big enough.
Oh,
So
my.
they had to upgrade the transformer so they could upgrade this guy's house service so we could build everything that he wanted in his backyard. But did he know that in the beginning or after we started construction? No. He knew in the beginning because I knew the questions to ask.
Right.
Because you understand the construction side and the design side, so the client doesn't get burned. Now, that's not to say that you make a mistake or don't know something sometimes. But
Right.
anyway.
So Shane's question really was on which course of action should I take? Should I do Genesis training or should I do PHTA, water shapes, university, whatever, any of those? And I'm with you. Just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Get going in the education and that's a big thing, the collaboration too. I mean, I've made so many friends and you and I know designers all over the country, let alone the planet. Yeah.
So that's the best thing is if you're try to figure out what you want to do and pursue that. So, and to me, getting certified in both of them is you're just more well-rounded than somebody that's gone through one track. So,
right. And we're working on a referral list in other parts of the country. And that's going to be one of our requirements is you've got to have at least started and well on your way on the educational tracks. And the way I always looked at this was like, if I was a plumber or an electrician, I would need to have certain tools. I would need certain training. It's the same thing with the pools. And, like you, I've poured tens of thousands of dollars into education, into, different things that we need to have and just all the stuff that goes into making something a career.
right.
Are you dealing with somebody that this is what they do or somebody it's a transient person? Because there's a lot of companies out there that they'll hire anybody just to sell something. And okay, if that business model works for that, that's fine. We're not going to dog it. But at the same time, we're looking out for people that are really trying to do something special in their backyard or want to be well-educated, well-informed so that they can make intelligent decisions so they don't regret stuff later.
So the question going back is, okay, I've got a basic pool. Is it good enough just to get somebody that comes out that's going to do a design for free for me, that asks lots of questions, or do I pay someone to do design work? So you think there's a right or wrong there?
Well, it depends on the person. I mean, I truly believe that in the long run, you're going to save money by paying somebody to develop a master plan for you that will sit with you for hours on end. When you have lots of questions, that cares about your particular property. I mean, every time I go out to a house, my mindset's always the same. Okay, if I live here, if this is my scenario, I've got these 3 little kids, and I'm dealing with X amount of dollars, how am I going to design this? I mean, I take it on as if it's my own.
Okay, you just said something there that some people may not be aware of. Another plan besides a concept plan, master plan.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do a master plan, you're developing not just one little space, you're considering the space as a whole.
Yes.